Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're just continuing with diving deeper into the teachings of Rabbi Nachman and all of their expressions. It's a story, a short story, a tale that was not part of the ancient tales or the tales of ancient days, but a story that to me is one of my favorite and one of the most significant places where I think that Rabbi Nachman offers us insight into the imaginative principle at the heart of spiritual experience and the ability to utilize imagination and dinyon, the kedusha, and the secret of malchus, to bring it up back into kedusha, to be mezachich, the land of Eretz Yisrael itself, to uncover the schus not only of uncovering the light of the Torah, but also uncovering the light of the Torah within the bareness of reality itself, to the point that our lives become Torah, to the point that the food itself that we're eating is transformed into letters. And that's going to be the secret of the Torah that's going to emerge from within the ancientness of the Torah that we have right now, which is the Torah of our own lives, the narrative structure of our own lives, our ability to uncover our light in the Torah. Sipori Maisios Meshanim Kadmonios, it's an amazing thing in terms of the ability to reorient one's own narrative, the retroactive kind of shaping of one's own narrative. That is the secret of tshuva. That is the secret of being woken up from the slumber of self-defeating thoughts about ourselves that keep us stuck in our bittul that comes as a result of a weakness or an inability rather than the emergence of strength that is rooted in the heart of our experiences. So waking ourselves up out of that stupor, which is what Rabbi Nachman was trying to do, and he felt that the Torah wasn't speaking to that place, and therefore, at least on a revealed level, he had to go further into Sipori Maisios, thinking about and discussing the notion of Sipori Maisios, this retroactive rewriting of one's own experiences and the cultivation of one's own narrative structure that is aligned with the goodness that they see within themselves, within others, within the world, and within HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that very often has to do, as we know, with looking back on our past experiences, uncovering the latent patterns of how we think and our thought structures, and asking the questions and testing the evidence of those very often self-negating powers of thinking and rewriting them and looking back on our past experiences on the inner child, on the child experience, and illuminating it with the eyes of maturity, with the eyes of retroactive reconditioning, which is the secret of tshuva, which is the secret of the ability for the present moment awareness to actually reawaken the past experience so that I now see the past experience in a new way and my life can be experienced and uncovered in a new way. So Sipori Maisios Meshanim Kadmonios means not only tales from ancient days, but tales Meshanim Kadmonios that come about as a result of the reorientation of how we look at ourselves based on our previous modes of conditioning and thinking. Shanim Kadmonios means the habituated stuckness that we find ourselves in, the habituated survival techniques that we've developed for ourselves and the dependencies that we develop ourselves in accordance with our best thinking. Those are shanim kadmonios. Those are the defense mechanisms. Those are the things that we've survived with in our lives. But the secret of Sipurei Maisios is looking back on them and being able to retell ourselves the story of our childhood, to retell ourselves the story of the youthfulness that lives within every fiber of experience, waiting to be renewed at this moment, to be recreated once again. Sipuri Maisios me shanim kadmonios. They help me look back on those shanim kadmonios of that inner child, of that young place of development, and they enable me to look at things with new eyes. And so that's the goal of Rabbi Nachman. To one degree or another, the Nachal Nevei Makor Chachma is giving us the ability to reorient ourselves towards our experience. Our life is a series of unfolding experiences, which are referred to as devarim. There's devarim, a thing that is a congealment of letters, as the Baal HaTanya says, which is why Dibor and Davar has the same orientation, because everything in the end of the day is letters. The riboy of Devarim in our lives, the Sipor Devarim, the Pratim, the separation, the differentiation, all of the categorizations of our lives, the Mevin Davar, Mitoch Davar, Mitoch Davar, Mitoch Davar, all of those things are what populate the external shape of our lives. Rabbi Nachman opens up Likutei Moharan Chelik Aleph with the call that ki ish hayisraeli tzarich tamid lehistakel b'haseichel sheyesh b'kol davar. Kol davar is every moment of my life. The call of Rabbi Nachman is to find the seichel within each and every davar, to connect ourselves to the chachma that exists within that thing. What that means, in a certain level, means that we all have devarim, we all have our life stories, but the ability of seeing the seichel in it is not only from the present or future orientation, but also a past orientation. Because I can recreate my experience, I can recreate the way that I look at my life. And by recreating the way that I can look at my life, I relinquish so many of the negative thought patterns and broken defense mechanisms that I've tried to use to make life easier, when in truth, they're making life heavier. There will always be a need to cope. There will always be something to carry. That's the secret of finding menucha, when we accept the burden. But very often the burden is compounded upon itself over and over and over as the result of our own stuckness and the self-imposed blinders that we keep ourselves in. Again, not as a result of fault, but as a result of simply not knowing the other path. And Rabbi Nachman came along to wake us up, to give us the ability to make that pivot, to create a chakika, to create an engraving, not to allow life to just continuously flow in accordance with my preconceived notions and my self-judgments and my schematic negative thought processes and my cognitive distortions and my naysaying and my limiting self-beliefs and my low self-esteem and my feelings of ineptitude or helplessness and the need for others and approval orientation and the additional anxiety that's placed upon a person as a result of their own thinking. All of these things, all of these baggages, all of these resentments that we carry around are ultimately, to one degree or another, the result of our own inability to learn the secret of accepting the fact that it's possible to let them go and learning to let them go. Sipuri Maisios Meshanim Kanmonios, the reorientation towards who we are and how we function, is the ability to see the Seichel Shebechol Davar. Each person is a Davar. Each person has infinite Davarim in their lives. But the Seichel Shebechol Davar is the Seichel HaKolelis. It's the secret of the Tachlis, and it's a secret of that every step of my life is ultimately leading me towards Dveikus with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is moving upwards towards Dveikus. And if I can learn to find that Nekuda Tova within each and every Davar, Nekuda Saseichel Sheish Bechol Davar, so I can create an engraving. I could create a real experience that I stop, pause, look, listen, experience, process, elevate, and raise upwards back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that only takes place by way of the pause, by way of the chakika, by way of the moment of pausing and stopping the fluidity of my thinking and actually arresting myself and saying, no, I can set a limit. That's the secret of drawing chachma into each and everything in our lives and creating moments of awareness and shifts and repositioning of our stories, which is the secret of what it means to be a human being. L'saper Yetzias Mitzrayim b'chol yom v'yom, to tell the story of how our soul loses that constriction that it felt it was stuck in, to reveal the double illumination of its light. That's the secret of b'sefer, b'sipor. The Ben Adam is a sipor. We're an unfolding story, and that is when we're able to pivot to recreate the narrative. The narrative is available to be recreated at every moment in accordance with how I choose to see experience. And that's why the first Torah starts with nachas. It's the secret during the ches, which is chachma, in the light of the seichel, the light of the ability to reorient, the secret of the roots of tshuva, the chachma that gives birth to bina, and the bina that comes forth from chachma. And then drawing it down through the nun, through the malchus, through the secret of the need to experience my life as empty experiences that now need to be retroactively filled with insight and wisdom. That's the secret of drawing the ches into the nun. That's the creation of chen. That's the ability for a person to open themselves up to the transformation of their Torah into tefillah, transforming knowledge into a place of vulnerability, not a relinquishment of knowledge, not a powerlessness that comes about by way of weakness, but rather a powerlessness that comes about by way of strength, the secret of bittel, the bittel machmas chizuk, as the Rebbe Rashab says. Because when I allow myself to let go of the previously held narrative and that sipor and that narrative structure that I cling so desperately to, because I feel that that's the bonds of connection, and I'm unwilling to draw ches into nun, I'm unwilling to draw, meaning into my experiences because meaning and experience seem separate. The secret of drawing chachma down into my experiences, being meir the devarim with the seichel, is allowing myself to retroactively induce a meaningfulness from the heart of all of experiences, to realize that nothing is by chance and nothing is by accident. Nothing is by accident. Lakel gomer alai, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is perpetually running the Welt, and that every single aspect, both Lamalam and Teva and the Teva, are all directing and moving upwards towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the secret of Nachas. When the Nun and the Ches is drawn into the Nun, we create the Tav, which is the secret of the Hitviu Tav, which is the engraving, which is the end where I can pivot. That's the secret of Sipurei Maisios, Meshanim Kadmonios, to wake up, to suddenly wake up. The Zohar HaKadosh spends so much time shrieing and crying over the fact that there's so many people who are asleep in this world. There's so many people who are not contemplating the tachlis of the tachlis, the secret of tchilas and imagination, which reminds me that tchilas is doimel yam, and the yam is doimel rikia, and the rikia is not the end, but it's doimel kisei. And the kisei hakavod reminds me that everything is just layers and layers of congealment of an infinite light that is far beyond the grasp. And it's the opening up to imagination and the possibility of recreating my life, recreating my way of looking back on past events, not denying reality, but in those places that are safe to positive and see the good points in them. It is my responsibility to uncover that pivot point, to uncover the secret of the Tov, the imaginative freedom to uncover the secret point of goodness that exists in every part of a person's experience. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's pleasant or easy, but it means uncovering the secret of hashgacha. Rabbi Nassan in Igeres Reish Chaf writes to his son Rav Yitzchak and describing an amazing way of understanding Hashgacha Pratis and the way that Rabbeinu saw the way of orienting to the emptiness of this world and the seemingly structured narratives about this world, what he refers to as teva, as the natural proclivity of things to just move in accordance to the preconceived notions that they'll continue to run that way, and the ability to open up Teva, to see within Teva itself, to see within the Devarim, the Riboy Devarim, the Sipur Devarim, Isha Mesaperes and Bala, the conversations that a person has between themselves and their families, between themselves and their friends, between themselves and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, between themselves and themselves, those Riboy Devarim, it's to be Mahapich them into Diburim Tovim, into his Boididus, into a Dibur that brings me upwards. It brings me upwards. It helps me reorient my life. It helps me open my life up to choosing to see things in a better way, to find the seichel shebachol davar. And so Rabbi Nassan says that the teva itself, what's the secret of teva? Hashkacha hu hateva v'teva hu hashkacha. Hateva hu hashkacha, meaning to say, there's a way of seeing hashkacha pratis and the element of a nace that's removed from the situatedness and the teva hadavarim and the emptiness or the meaninglessness of the experience itself or the boredom at the core of it. That secret of teva, a person escapes that. Then there's the secret of coming to terms with recognizing that teva itself is the gushpanka of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the secret shame of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, es hashemaim ve'es ha'aretz, aleph hey vav hey, which is the secret of tov, which is Megala itself, specifically within the teva, specifically within Olam Ha'asiyah, and the Niflo Saboira, and the very secret fact of the abiding nature of being in its appearance, in its presence. The fact that there is a Hova, the fact that there is existence is ultimately rooted in the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being the only Mechuyev HaMetzias that exists. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Mechuyev HaMetzias. And through his Boididus and through the secret of coming to terms with the Koyach of Aaron Neshama, we're nichlal within that place and we come to see the value of all things. That's the secret Rabbi Nachman describes of a hoylech yichidi b'layla, someone who walks alone at night. Upaisek loimer ma noa ilan zeh, and a person who pauses to say, how beautiful is this tree, mitchayev benafsham. So in Gilui, in Niglas Torah, what that means is don't look at the tree, don't look at Teva. Teva is a dangerous place. The emptiness of Teva is a dangerous place to try and find the Kadosh Baruch Hu because the narrative seems blank and it seems difficult. And a person can't necessarily find the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Teva. My Sabbas Chusio Ganalenu would always say the harshest words of Chazal sometimes are Oilim Kimenhago Noheg. Oilim Kimenhago Noheg, that the notion of Teva that runs on its own, God forbid, is the one of the strongest forms of kfira and getting caught up in the emptiness and the externalities of all things. And so a person shouldn't look at a tree. And they shouldn't pause and say how beautiful is Teva, because then they're endangering their lives. But Zakt Rabbeinu, Zakt Rabbi Nachman, somebody goes out alone into the nighttime, into the forest, into the secret of Teva, into the secret of Hispoidus, and they stop to encounter the secret of Hispoidus, and they stop to encounter the secret of talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and coming to terms with the fact that our words themselves and our re-narration of our words and our reorientation and all of the thoughts that we have to better the way that we look at ourselves to enable for a movement into a lighter future, all of that comes directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We thought we were saying it up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but in truth, all we were saying were the words that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was whispering into our hearts, and we were making them vocal so that we hear it, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu now is in that relationship with us, and then it comes back to us and we ask for more and more, etc., etc. The secret of the Cha Amar Libi. And when we're able to reorient our narrative, when we're able to free ourselves from those self-limiting narratives, that's when we're able to be mala all of the diburim, all of the devarim. And this is one of the things that Rabbi Nachman offers the most to us. The ability to wake up. The Sipurim Maisios wake the person up. So this is a story. This is a story in the Sipurim V'Hamaisios that was printed with the Chochmah and Tvuna from Rav Avram ben Rav Nachman. When we're looking at the Sipurim V'Hamaisios, this is not, again, Sipurim Maisios Mishanim Kadmonios, but all of the Sipurim contain within themselves that re-narration quality of learning to look differently at our lives, learning to create the change from within, learning to bring Geula first within our mind, and then bringing out the Iker Geula. So Siper Rabbeinu Zal. Rabbeinu Zal told a Maisa. Maisa Ba'ani Echad. A tale of a certain impoverished individual. And again, we are all that particular impoverished individual, each and every person reading the story. Shahya mitparnes betit. He was a person who made his money digging up mud in order to make cement and clay, spending his days in the filth of the world, cleansing the lowest common denominator, the dust, the dirt, the mud of the world. Shahya choifer titu meichram, that he would dig the mud, create clay, and then he would sell it. That was how he made his limited gains, to the degree that he was still considered completely impoverished. Hamachas, once upon a time, Kishachafar matza even tov, when he was digging in the mud, he found the beautiful stone, he found the beautiful diamond. Even tov, even is those experiences in our lives, and tov is the goodness that is inherent within them. Even is the davar, and the tov is the seichel shebachol davar. The haven, and what he understood was, again, every word we can get caught up on, so we won't. The haven, and he understood, Sheshavyo hon rav mod, that this stone was an incredibly valuable stone. Ulam lo yada kama shavyo. But alas, he didn't know what the price was. He didn't know what it cost. He didn't know the true value of the stone. He just knew that it was a valuable stone. V'halach lesocher sheyomer osa b'shivya. And he checked in with the seller of diamonds to see what condition his condition was in, to see the condition of this stone. What does it cost? What's the value? Amr lo hasocher, the seller told to him, captain says to him, "B'medina zu ein adam sheyachol l'shalim l'chashavya." In this country, in this land, there is nobody who is able to afford the actual cost to pay you properly for this stone that you have found in the mud. Ki hu shav hoin rav, because it's a profoundly expensive, valuable coin. V'tzarech lisa avor mechirasa London, and in order to sell it, you have to travel to London, right? To travel to the secret of Kavyarok, the secret of Golders Green. You have to travel to London. L'ir hamelucha, to the place of Malchus, Hagnuza Baradla. You have to go to London. You have to go to that place in London to sell this diamond. Ulam hu haya ani. But this person who was digging in the mud, he was an impoverished individual. V'lo haya lo kesef lisa, and he didn't have the funds necessary to travel. V'halachu machar es rechusho hadal. So what did he do? He went along, very much like the Maisa Mebitachon. There was a community of this chevra. They all functioned together, it seems, or perhaps they're all the same person. He goes and he sells all of the limited amounts that he has. And he went from house to house like the beggars in the Sipurim Maisios in order to collect his daily needs until he found enough. He had the histopkus enough to travel first and foremost to the sea. Okay, I can't get fully to where I need to go to, at least I can get to the sea. And he saw the ship there. He saw the ship waiting. The vessel was there to take him. But he didn't have enough money to ascend onto this vessel, to ascend onto the ship, to take him to London. And he went to the captain, strangest he could find, and he showed him this diamond. He showed him this gem, this pearl, this stone. And when this captain saw the stone and its glimmering nature, he also understood Sha'adam Ashirhu. He looked at the appearance and he says, this person must be incredibly wealthy, exceedingly wealthy. And he brings him onto the ship with great pomp and circumstance. And he put him on the first floor, first class, and he provided him with the delicacies and the pleasures of one of the great Gvirim, of one of the great men of wealth. And in this ani, who was assumed to be a rich person's cheder, on the first floor, staring out onto the sea, there was a window. And his way was to find joy, to look at, to take pleasure in the reality that he had this stone, he had this thing, he had this object that was going to get him out. This thing that was going to be the answer to all of his problems. Ubeprat be'es ha'achila, especially when he was eating. A person is most human when they're eating, and that's the place, that's the Even Tov. The osios within the bread is from the Maisa Melechem, to eat in order to have the kavanah to see the osios, to see the aleph themselves. And he would take pleasure with it, and he would find excitement with it, and it would soothe his anxieties. Because in truth, there's a great joy and an openness of the heart that is very beneficial for the process of digestion and for digesting food properly. We see what Rabbi Nachman is doing over here. Rabbi Nachman is revealing over here the secret of the tachlis of all things is for a person to have an easier time digesting food, the secret of the sheer meruba that expresses itself within the stomach itself. In the lowest place, that place that tzaddikim struggle with the most, as Chazal tell us, that most tzaddikim pass away, God forbid, are mistalik as a result of an issue with the stomach, because the ma'isa of achila and the tikkun of the chet of eitzadas is the ikra makom. But over here, Rabbeinu was showing us that the tachlis was to stare at this diamond, this goodness, to find sha'ashuim, elyonim with it. Why? Because the simcha and the openness and the expansion of the heart was good for the health of the digestive tract. That's the dir betachtoinim mamish. Pam achas kesheyashav le'echol. Once upon a time, when this ani, who was assumed to be a rich man, sat down to eat, as was his tradition, as was his nature, and he placed this beautiful diamond, this beautiful gem, this beautiful pearl on top of the table, in order to lose himself in it. In order to lose himself in it. In order to remember the goodness, in order to remember how grateful he was that he has this object, this thing that was going to take him out of his difficulty. Nirdam merov ayefuso. He fell asleep. He fell into a deep slumber as a result of his exhaustion. It wasn't a sleep of laziness. It wasn't a sleep of because there's nothing better to do than sleep. It was a sleep of exhaustion. Ayefi ageya. If Amalek is able to attack a person when they're ayefi ageya, imagine the spiritual potencies available to a person who serves Hashem when they're ayefi ageya. That to serve Hashem through a place of ayefi ageya, to push oneself to the limit of what they're capable of doing with a good night's sleep even, that's the secret of going to sleep properly. But so here he falls asleep as a result of rov ha'ayefus, the burden of the mind to find joy in this thing that promised salvation for him. Bentayim, reality was going on while this person fell into a slumber. Ba hamasharis, along comes the waiter. Ulakach asamape v'hapirurim sha'aleh im hamargalis. And he takes the tablecloth with the crumbs, the pirurim or the ikr, the shirayim of the tzaddikim, the secret of Purim, which is the pirurim, the recognition that even in the smallest crumbs of experience, we encounter the fullness, because ha-toifes chelak min ha'etzem toifes, it's ha'etzem kulo, somebody who touches an aspect, a minimal aspect, an irreducible aspect, a quintessential aspect of the essence itself, grasps the entirety of the essence, because the essence is not something that could be nischalik, and even if we're speaking of the essence being nischalik, as the Rebbe Rashab says, nevertheless, each and every chelek contains the full expression of the essence within it, and the secret of the klal and the prat being equal, and the secret of the Baal Shem Tov, who threw himself off that cliff and shattered into a million pieces in order to begin the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they ran down to find a million different Baal Shem Tovs, a million different tiny pieces that were all a full Baal Shem Tov in and of themselves. That's the secret of Pirurim. Alea Imam Margalis, they took this tablecloth with the crumbs that the diamond rested upon. Kilo Yada, because it was the secret of Lo Yada. It was the secret of Purim being Niskala. He didn't know. He didn't know. It was Teva. Sheyesh Alea Margalis. This person didn't know. It was a series of unfortunate events. V'hishlicha kol yam, and he threw everything into the sea. Ukeshehi kitz mishinaso v'heven kol zeh. And when this Yid, this Ani Roichev al Chamor, this Das of Mashiach, this Das of Tmimis, he awoke and he understood everything that had happened. Havin kol zeh, Havin is Bina, kol is Yisod, zeh is the secret of Zer Anpin. Hayalot Sar Gadol, he was in a tremendous amount of pain. Why? Ukimat sheyatza midaiso, and he almost went to Meshuggah. He almost lost his mind. He almost couldn't get up. This is the Turkey prince. Why is he a Turkey prince? Why is he under the table? Because Kimat, he lost his mind. Kimat yatza midaiso. Because in that place of the Yeyush, that place of realizing what had actually happened, that he lost this thing, and not only did he lost this thing, but now he's in danger. So he almost lost it. What am I going to do right now? This is an ani aroichev el chamor. He's not asking what could have been in the future, what was in the past. What am I going to do right now? Hari captain who gazlan. The captain is a Russia. The captain is a thief. The captain is a fool. The captain thinks I'm rich. Shiyaro oso ba'ad mechir hanasiya. When he sees that I can't pay the ticket price because I'm not actually rich, he's going to kill me. Al kain. So what does this Jew do? What does the ani harichiv al chamor do? What's the secret of hateva hu hashkacha? Al kain asa es atzmo sameach ki'ilu lo era davar. Al kain asa es atzmo sameach ki'ilu lo era davar. Therefore, he made himself as if he were happy, as if nothing had taken place, nothing had transpired, nothing happened, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. Asa es atzmo sameach ki'ilu lo era davar. Asa es atzmo. Asa es atzmo, an active form of developing the self, the reorientation of the narrative, making oneself sameach ki'ilu lo era davar, a state of joy as if nothing actually happened. That negative way of thinking, it didn't happen. Ki'ilu lo era davar. He chose the path of equanimity, of forcing himself into a state of equanimity. Asa es atzmo sameach ki'ilu lo era davar. He made himself joyous as if nothing had happened. Vine captain hayabachol yom ba lechadr l'daberimo. And the captain, in the hopes of ingratiating himself with this ani that he thought was a gvir, he would come with and sit with him. Ukishabaylav shuv captain. When the captain came the next day after all that had transpired, acharei advarim ha'ela, lo hivchin al panav mu'uma, he saw absolutely no shift. The same way that after the Akedah, Avram and Yitzchak were the same. They went down the mountain. That was the Iker Nisayon, of going back down the mountain without change, even though everything had changed. And in truth, everything does change, but it remains the same. Lo hivchin al panav mu'uma, he didn't see anything. Kihu asa es atzmot sameach. Why? Because this person had forced himself. He made himself happy. He created the happiness with his own hands. He pretended. He played with his wooden sword. He understood the difficulty of the situation, and he chose the path of not taking himself too seriously and dancing like David HaMelech for his life, with the urgency of the only thing that I can do is find joy in this moment. He made himself happy. Ad shelo hikir bo shum shinoi. There was no change. There was mamish no change that was recognizable. Avad, everything had changed internally, but there was no change that was recognizable. There was no hisgalus of the awareness of change. It was shivisi, a chosen forced shivisi, actively choosing derech hamuna b'charti. I choose the path of shivisi. Derech hamuna b'charti, mitzvosecha shivisi, mishpatecha shivisi. Everything is shivisi. Derech hamuna b'charti, I choose the path of shivisi. No shinoi. Amar lo captain. The captain said to him, "Hello, ani ro'eh. I see so deeply. I see, it's clear, I see. Halo is the source of Keser, the low, what we can't grasp. Ani, which is the secret of Keser, becoming Malchus. Roeh, which is drawing it back to Malchus through Chachma. Halo, Ani Roeh. I see, Shehincha Adam Chacham v'yashalev. You're wise with a straight heart. Chachma and Bina. You have it together. You know what you're doing. I trust you. You're a wealthy man. You've won in this life, says the captain to the impoverished Jew, who's not showing any change after the trauma. Please hear me out. Hear me out on the deal. I want to make a deal with you. I really want to buy a large purchase of grain and sell it in London. Sell it in that place of London. There's going to be an immense amount of money that comes with this. But I'm aware. Shema Yomru, what they're going to say. Shaganafti esakesef lekniyas hatvua, because I'm a thug, because I'm the captain, because I'm a buffoon, because I'm this creature. They're gonna say I stole the money. Al kenyan al shimcha. Let me place the ownership of this grain in your name. In your name. You're an honest man. Va'ani ashalim lecha avur zeh sikum rav. And I'll pay you an immense amount for doing this favor for me when we make the deal. The matter was accepted in the eyes of the ani. The suda was mamish suda. The suda is gavein suda. What else? What other option did he have? Asa atzmo ki ilu lo ira davar. Asa in the world of asiya. The asu kain. And so it was, and so they did. Vihine. And now, Kishaba'u London, when they came to London, Mesa captain. Captain passes away, the captain dies. Venishar Hakol Eitzel Zeha Ani. And everything remained in the hands of this Ani, who had lost the diamond. Vahaya Erecha Tvua Kafle Kaflayim Me Erecha Shalamargalis. And this Tvua was a doubled value of the Margulis. Why? Because the Margulis is the light of Arich, and it's the light of understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the light. And then losing the light, and then recovering the light within the darkness itself through that descent into the acceptance of Shivisi, that's a doubled portion. That's Arich and Atik. That's Yasis Alayach Alikayach, the Yesh and the Yesh. He made a doubled amount. Ukeshasiyim Rabbeinu Zal Sasipor Amar. And when Rabbeinu completed this tale, he said, Hamargalis lo haisa shalo. The gem never belonged to the Jew. The haraya, and what's the proof? What's the narrative behind that? Shene'evda mimenu, because he lost it. The hatvua, kein haya shalo, but the grain, that was his. The haraya, what's the proof? Shenishar etzlo. The raya that the grain belongs to him is that it belongs to him. He has it. So I never really understood the end, and I still don't understand the end, because the story itself, the goof of the story is telling us something incredible. That asas atzmo ki'ilu lo ira davar, that each and every person has the ability to look back on those struggling points in their narrative and to say asas atzmo ki'ilu sameach ki'ilu lo ira davar, to look back with the nekuda tova, to uncover the nekuda tova, to reorient our narrative, to see the goodness in that narrative. But the ending seems anticlimactic to a certain degree. Okay, so the avoida of ki'ilu, of making oneself joyous, of derech hamuna b'charti, mishpatecha shivisi. But what's the thing that Rabbi Nachman is trying to bring out, or is clearly bringing out, in the way that this sipur is told? And based on this Rabbi Nassan that I saw in Igeres Reish Ches and Alim L'Trufa, based on Sefer Amidos and Sefer Aleph Beis Chelek Sheni by Erech Hadas, by the area of Teva and the Aryeh, which created a large machlokes in Rabbeinu's life, Rabbi Nassan makes very clear over here. So the secret perhaps is that the ability to understand, the ability to reframe, the ability to choose to see goodness in my life, to choose to see that which is okay, to find the nekuda tova, is based on the simple fact that whatever is happening in my life right now is exactly what is happening in my life right now. And the fact that it's happening in my life right now means that it's exactly what needs to be happening in my life right now. And obviously that needs to work fundamentally with the secret of Bechira, which is the biggest nace of all, which we'll discuss. But the fact that it's happening is the raya that this is part of my Sipuri Maisios Meshanim Kanmonios. This is part of my unfolding Megillah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be Megala in the times of Mashiach, where I'm going to be able to say Samchenu ki Moisanisanu ki ilu lo ki asa es atzmo sameach ki ilu lo ira davar. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Ki ilu lo yatsa. Nothing happened. Simsim never happened. Keherafayin. Keherafayin. It's going to be revealed. Ki ilu lo ira davar. It's not negating that which happened. It's revealing the freedom of interpretation that rests within the hardened case of that which happens. The external shell of that which happens, the congealment of the day-to-day in a person's life, that's the devarim, that's the riboy devarim in a person's life. Kichu imachem devarim v'shuvu el Hashem. Person has to bring all of those devarim that weigh us down and that help us, and bring them back up to Hashem to understand that there's a seichel shebachol davar. And the seichel shebachol davar is that because this is happening, this is exactly where I need to find you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The grain is his because it's his, and the diamond is not his because it's not his. The teva itself is the hashkacha. The hashkacha is the teva because teva is the shem Elokim. Teva is just the externalized unfolding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression down through the unfolding process of tzimtzumim and the mesech and the parsa that's folded in between the olam ha'atzilus and the worlds of Bri Yitzira, but is found in its quintessential form down here in the world of Asiya, in the secret of Perak Shira, which is elevating nature itself, which is elevating the godliness that is available to us to uncover through our minds by way of encountering the day-to-day experience. Not, God forbid, to bring godliness into the day-to-day thickness of experience. The goal is not to pretend that olam ha'asiya, or this worldliness, is equivalent with godliness, God forbid. It is surrounded by, it is saturated by, it is subsumed within godliness. And it is our job to be Megala, the light of godliness there. And when we can be Megala, the light of godliness down there in the olam ha'asiya, in the tit of it all, in the digging in the mud of it all, that's where we uncover the secret of the hashkacha itself is the teva, and the teva is the hashkacha. To uncover the ability of ki'ilu lo ira davar, as if nothing happened. To reorient myself, to shift, to begin again, to tell the story again, to retell the story over and over. Meshanim kadmonios. Every previous moment is a shanim kadmonios, and every ability to reframe the way that I relate to the previous moment is sipuri maisios meshanim kadmonios, which is the secret of the Megillah. And Hakayras Megillah Mafreya Lo Yatsa, even though the entire story of the Megillah is seemingly Mafreya, that the Giloi takes place at the end. But now somebody who reads it from the end to the beginning, they're not Yotze. Because what does it mean to read the Megillah Mafreya? To read the Megillah Mafreya is to start from the end and go back to the beginning. To start from the end and go back to the beginning. Which would be to try and deny the reality of the parts of our stories that seem concealed, that seem difficult. Because the way that the Megillah unfolds is that it starts with concealment and it emerges into revelation. That's the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu. It comes to reveal the light of that which is going to be through the difficulties and all of the struggle of that which has been, the illumination of all of the pockets of our narratives that need to be illuminated. The light of Purim has to begin with concealment and emerge into light, as the Kamarna Rebbe points out with regards to the Shem Havaya and the Shem Adnus on the days that it's available to read Megillah. To start from the end and go to the beginning, to start from the light and go then back to the concealment, is nish the way that Purim is being Megala the Lo Yada. Lo Yada demands that first and foremost I encounter that sense of loss. I lost the diamond, and I have to make that choice of Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid, of Ke'ilu Lo Ire Davar, Asa Es Atzmos Sameach Ke'ilu Lo Ire Davar. That's the simplest equation, making ourselves happy as if nothing has happened, choosing joy, finding the Nekuda Tova, looking back on the Nekuda Tova, in spite of all things, uncovering the Nekuda Tova, uncovering the Nekuda Tova, uncovering the Nekuda Tova. Both the first chelek of Likutei Maran ends with Torah Reish Pei Beis, and the second chelek of Likutei Maran ends referencing Reish Pei Beis, because Sof Davar HaKol Nishma, in both chalakim of Likutei Maran, in the secret of the Baal Tshuva and the Tzaddik within a person, at the end of the day, it's just about Reish Pei Beis. It's just about looking back and uncovering the goodness of Baruch Sha'amar V'Haya Ha'olam. To end, there's a teaching from the Heilige Bal HaSulam describing the tachlis of Dimyon. What is Dimyon? What is the true purpose of Dimyon? This ability to create almost something from nothing. And the Bal HaSulam says that when it comes to facing reality, a person always has to have two perspectives, the right and the wrong, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative. When it comes to tshuva, when it comes to refining that which can be refined, always two options, the right and the wrong, the good and the bad. When it comes to looking back on those things that I cannot change, when it comes to looking back on past experiences in my life that I've done what I can do about, so then there is a reality that I don't need to have two options there. There doesn't need to exist the reality of negative judgment on my past events if I've fixed what I can fix in them and I've accepted what I need to accept in them. From that perspective, I can cut off, I can amputate the reality of negative judgment, and through the mechanism of imagination, create a singular line of perspective that illuminates the past events of my life and my past narrative structure with the willingness for a positive outlook, for uncovering and searching for the Nekudas of Beis HaMikdash that rest along the path of our histories, and it's going to be the secret of Samchenu Kimoy Sanisanu, and it's the secret of Sipuri Maisios Meshanim Kadmonios, that by rearranging the way that I looked at myself in the past and developing new perspectives that lead to spiritual growth, that's the thing that's going to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. That's the thing. This is what Shir Na'im is all about. Shir Na'im that Rabbeinu starts Likutei Maran with is ultimately about the call that the biggest kfir in the world is to forget about our strength. And that how long are we going to chase after the Chatayim? How long are we going to chase the negative judgments about ourselves and being stuck in these self-limiting perspectives? But to wake up and to go into the boat, as it says, as Rabbeinu explains in the first story, in the last story of the Sheva HaBatlarim and the blind beggar, the Kabsan HaIver, of all of the tzaddikim were trying to remember who is oldest, who remembered least. So they're all sitting in this place because their ship had wrecked. And then the great eagle, the Nesher HaGadol, says, how long are you going to be mibazbez? How long are you going to wait here, wasting your kochos? Go back to your ships. That call of how long will a person, how long is a person going to think that they don't have an akud of tzaddik within them, that they don't have an akud of the Eitz Chaim within them? How long will a person feel that they're not capable of bringing out Kavod Shemayim wherever they find? And in that place of reawakening the strength of Klal Yisrael through the secret of Sipurim Maisios Meshanim Kanmonios, we have the ability to uncover the singular ray of looking back on the past, which is the ability to see the good. Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam, V'haya, that which was, I can always reorient. V'haya Acharei Hadvarim Ha'ila. To look back, lemafreya, and the osios of lemafreya is mafal ra. The secret of negativity falling away is through the secret of retroactive conditioning that is agala milsa lemafreya, what the true essential nature of things is. In terms of the lumdus of agala milsa lemafreya, I remember seeing from Rav Shlomo Fisher, Schlusi al Ganalenu, the Heilige Drashos Beis Yishai, the Heilige Beis Yishai, the light of Yerushalayim, that the light of the Avnei Miluyim, that the lumdus of Lemafreya has two perspectives. Either Lemafreya is retroactive revelation, is that from here on out, I will judge the situation as if this is the reality, in spite of the fact that there was a preceding narrative that existed. And the other svara, and both are true, obviously, on the level of Yichud Elyon and Yichud Tachton, and Yichud Ilah and Yichud Tatan, Das Elyon and Das Tachton, the second svara of Lemafreya is that no, once I come to the Das of Lemafreya, then it's as if every previous moment in the past that was seen in the wrong way is now transformed into having been seen in the right way. And that's a secret of Samchenu Kimoy Sanisanu. That's the secret, like we said, is the Suda of Lev Yasan, where all of our past experiences and misses are going to be revealed, the secret of Natzachti Vanatzeach Gamarti Ve'egmor, that there will be a completion after the completion, that even after something has been completed, we still have the ability to go back through the Lemafreya reasoning of Sipur Maisios Meshanim Kanmonios to choose to create that reality of Asa Es Atzmenu Sameach Ki'ilu Lo Yiredavar, and the secret of Asapir Lechem Eich Pam Hayus Mechim, that I will tell you a tale about how once upon a time they were joyous, as Rabbeinu starts off the last Maisa of the Sheva HaBatlarim. Rabbi Nassan only writes, "Asaper lechem eich pam hayus meichem." I'm going to tell you a tale of how they were once joyous. Zak the Heilige Rav Avram ben Rav Nachman, Pervi'i. He says that's not all that Rabbeinu said. Rabbeinu actually said, as I heard it in tradition, is that Asaper lechem eich pam hayus meichem mitoich hamar shchayra. I'm going to tell you how once upon a time they found joy from within despondency itself. Asks the Rebbe Shlita. He says, why is it that Rabbi Nassan doesn't add the part of Mitoich Hamar Shchayra, from within the difficulty, from within that intense strength that it takes for a person to create moment by moment moments of Asa Es Atzmo Sameach Ki'ilu Lo Ira Davar, and the immense strength of character and gvura that takes, and the Hiskabrus HaAtzmius to choose to think differently in this moment. That Marashchayrakite that Rav Nachman brings down, why didn't Rabbi Nassan write it? And so the answer was that Rav Avram ben Rav Nachman's job was to write everything that was said. I'll tell you how once upon a time they found joy from within despondency. But Rabbi Nassan's job was to just give us what we needed to know about ourselves. And by that, it's only I will tell you a tale of how once they made themselves happy. It doesn't matter. The Marashchayrakite, there's no more time for it anymore. It's Mile Dishtusa. It's shigaon lagamre, kemat yatzamidaiso, asa es atmo sameach ka'ilu lo ira davar. And in that place, a person taps into the light of ki'ilu, into the light of bina, into the light of the wooden sword of the bala bitachon, the secret of the bitachon of Reshad Lo Asyada, to be mamshech down the secret of hateva hu hahashkacha, and that light of London, that light of the diamond, that even that falls into the yam, it belongs to someone. It belongs to someone. It didn't belong to him, but that very valuable diamond that falls into the yam belongs to someone. And each and every person has the right to ownership over that diamond. It belongs to someone. And if you find that diamond in your hand, if you find the ability to share the Torah of the tzaddikim or any element of the tzaddikim with anybody around you or anybody who doesn't know about the light of the tzaddikim, then it's ours to give over and it's ours to live by and it's ours to be mishasheya in. And the secret of imhu yeled sha'ashuim, is it true that Ephraim is the beautiful child? Ephraim is the ugliest child. Ephraim is the worst of the worst. But midai adabrabo, when I speak about him, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ezkerenu yo, I remember him, and homu may I love, my inwards, my inner chambers yearn towards that place of the reorienting of the story, the retelling myself the story. The chasur mechsar of ahaki katani, the realization that our narrative has a chisaron in it, that we carry around all the negativity that's not our own, and in recognizing that we have to reorient our perspective of ourselves and open ourselves up to the koyach ha'amiti, of going back, how long are we going to chase the negative self-judgment and the chatayim and all of the things that keep us down, and to believe that the diamond is ours to find, and it brings us to that place of Yishuv Hadas, of derech emuna b'charti, u'mishpatecha shivisi be'ezras Hashem.